Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging podcast discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in, Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for those that are tuning in once again, and also thank you for those that are following us on Facebook and social media. We want to try to get as much exposure as we can, of course, for almost 9 years now. Hard to believe. I started live radio in September of 2011.
Wow.
I was just thinking about that the other day. And we're numbering the shows, and I think, Stephanie, what is this? I don't know, 1,600 and something? I forget what show we're on, but almost 1,700 shows. And you, Jack, have over 70, I think.
Wow.
Can you believe that?
I feel like a youngster. I look at you and you don't look like you've aged.
But that's a short period of time to have that many shows, right?
And, of course, you enable me to open my own radio booth, so I have some shows now at computerlaw.com, and people laugh because I said, you took this room, you turned it into a radio booth. It's so much better not seeing all these case files here. Where did they go? I said, oh, they're hidden elsewhere in the building.
Actually kind of upgrades the office, huh?
It does.
Yeah.
No, it does.
Yeah.
And you know what it did? It had a multiplicative effect because then people were like, we really need to clean up the office entirely. So we put in all these wood floors.
Okay.
Because, of course, now we have a dog-friendly office. And so you have to have wood floors because the dogs really don't like the rugs, because they smell other dogs. But we're not going to take much time away from our guest because Mike Kliment is here. And Mike, I've known for decades, and he has transformed his human potential.
That's a great story.
From the Silicon Valley traditional semiconductor field to a bunch of really interesting real estate projects, because, you know, we were going to do sort of the sequence on dealing with compliance with laws, but Mike was available this week, and I said, hey, Mike, let's jump on the show because he's right at a most opportune time for connecting with those people who are out there that like real estate investments where they don't have to do any fuss or muss, and they make a lot of money. And Mike said, tell us about
this offer. We'll talk about it. We'll remind the listeners several times during the show to make sure, because I think there's a great opportunity for people out here for sure. So, introduce our guest and let him tell us our story.
Yeah, so I've known Mike Kliment, just to let you know, when he and a partner who started a company which was doing something extremely innovative. The name of the company was Virtual Silicon Technology, if I'm remembering it right, because I remember VST Inc. And I remember when we formed it, I'll never forget this, Mike and Taylor Scanlon came in, literally, and Taylor had a Safeway paper bag full of files that he dumped. I'll never forget this. You were there. You were like, yeah, it's Taylor. He's not even organized. He dumped the whole set of files that came out, and he said, we started this company about whatever number of months ago, but we really need to kind of like do it right. Can you go through all this stuff that we've been doing? Wow. And we literally sat there and went through those files and said, okay, well, we have to like organize this and organize that and get this done and that done. And I'll tell you something, we kind of put a lot of structure around it, just that one meeting. And I'll never forget that meeting because Taylor was like, man, I feel so organized. He walked out with a folder with just what he needed, and he was going out to raise money. And then you did raise money, raised a fair amount of money, and did really well, is what my recollection was.
That is correct. Yeah. But I have to add to that story, in fact, that first meeting with you, Jack, we had a situation where we were starting a new company, and we were afraid that we might get sued for the intellectual property that we were going to remake. So we wanted clean room procedures.
Yes.
And I remember telling Jack what we were going to do, and he said, don't do that.
We do it the right way. I mean, I'm one of those people that if you're going to do it the right way. But, you know, in Silicon Valley, as elsewhere, although this is not the way it is on the East Coast, but on the West Coast, you have the right to leave your employer and even compete with your employer. That's Business and Professions Code 16600. But you have to compete fairly, which means you can't use trade secrets, you can't use confidential information, you got to watch out for patents, you got to watch out for copyrights, trademarks, all the rest. We'll go through a long list. But in New York, it's like the opposite. People expect to sign non-competes, and then they take what's often called garden leave for like a year, sometimes longer, and they basically get paid for doing nothing. Well, California's got this view that that's bad for the economy, which it probably is. California economy in some ways thrives on competition, often from people that are leaving their employers. So Taylor and Mike had left, and I forget where you left.
It was VLSI Technology.
Oh, VLSI. So this is a big company with lots of money, you know.
And we actually had permission from the chairman to do this.
Right.
But we were concerned during that period of time when Jerry Sue and Cadence and all those guys were having it out.
Yes.
And we want to make sure that Jerry Sue bought Compass, my previous company.
Yes.
That would be all right.
And the interesting part of being a law firm in Silicon Valley is we see these cases all the time. The big firms won't take them because they don't want to piss off the larger companies that they want as their clients. So I get these referrals.
Never thought about that.
I get these referrals all the time from big firms. They're like, "Can you handle this? These guys are nice guys, but we really want the big company that might end up suing these guys, and you're going to have to defend them. So we're just going to give them to you because we're in conflict or potential conflict." And they're just picking their prey. They're just picking what they're going to do.
Yeah.
So Mike and Taylor started this business. We helped them with all the licensing, and there was some litigation. There's lots of stories over the years. And eventually that market radically changed. And you guys tried to adapt, I think, but you can tell the story because you kind of have been in Silicon Valley semiconductor and semiconductor tools and libraries and all that jazz for decades. And then we're going to talk about how you transformed it. But that business was quite a story, right?
Yeah, our competition at the time came up as a strategy where instead of selling these libraries for large amounts of money, they would actually give them away for free and in return for a royalty. The problem was that the royalty was actually quite low. So the business model didn't work long term. But short term, there was about 13 competitors I had at the same time starting up the business, and it put them all out of business.
And it's kind of one of those things where you start a business not anticipating Uber coming in. Let's say you started let's say you're that guy Cohen who's now in jail. He bought all these taxi cab medallions in New York, probably convinced themselves New York City will always need cabs. All of a sudden, out of nowhere, Uber comes in and destroys the medallion value, and he gets stuck with all of the sort of losses, and that causes all sorts of other consequences. But Mike, you did an amazing transformation of your life, and that's why I thought it was interesting to have you come in, because you went from what we would call laying out the chip architecture on the real estate of the actual silicon to laying out apartment buildings on real estate. I mean, that's to me that's like a major transformation. How did you pull that off?
Well, if you ever look at a chip, it looks like a city.
Yes, that's a good point.
It has like it has buildings, and roads, and infrastructure. So it's the same kind of planning, it's just for a different purpose.
Yes, but you were, in my way of thinking, Taylor was like the marketing guy, and you were kind of like the technical brains of that operation. Now Taylor's going to hear this and get really upset, but Taylor was the CEO and the leader, and he did a lot more than marketing. He did a lot of selling. But you were the guy that was kind of in the trenches dealing with the engineering, is what my recollection was.
That is correct. I was the chief operating officer.
So don't you really have to get really good at organizing people and things and equipment and all the things I guess you're now doing as a real estate developer, right?
That's correct. You look at this project we're going to talk about is a 480-unit apartment complex, and the result is it's a lot of program management you have to do to make that work. A lot of different people you got to get to play together, and you still got to raise financing for all that stuff.
Right.
And when you're doing a semiconductor chip, it's exactly the same thing. It's just different tasks that you're organizing, but you got to take a large group of people to get a project done, and you got to track it through that process.
So do you think that the moving parts in, say, the semiconductor business are more stable than the moving parts in the real estate business? Because now you've had essentially a flavor of both, because I tend to think real estate can be a little more tricky with the environmental and with the governmental regulations and that jazz, or do you think, no, it's actually more settled, there's more clarity than what exists when you're dealing with the physics of a chip? Or do you never think of it that way?
Well, I'm now thinking about it.
There you go. You're not being forced to think about it.
You're actually making a very interesting point, because I hadn't looked at it from that point of view. But When you're building a semiconductor chip, you're on a very aggressive schedule.
Yes.
And you have to hit the ground running, and everybody has to be on the same page, and you got to make sure you don't slip.
Right.
You don't have things like government agencies that want to go on their timetable.
Yes.
Or you don't have to worry about financings and things like that.
Right.
So when you look at the real estate, it's a very different world from that point of view.
Yes.
We have 2 different projects in 2 different counties.
Yes.
One county, I'll go for them to get approval for something. The first thing they say is, well, why do you want to do that?
Right.
They make it a very difficult process.
Right.
The other one, which happens to be where I'm building the apartment complex, you go to them, they say, great to see you. How can I help you get this done?
Beautiful.
We want it done now.
Oh, is that the Yuba project, which you're calling Tanglewood, right?
Yes, Tanglewood Racket Village.
Okay.
And we're just getting huge cooperation. They're pulling as much as they can to help this get done.
So they want housing. They're dying for housing.
They're desperate for housing.
Okay. And what's driving that? Because Yuba, to me, is not on the map, but to you is totally on the map. That's like 2+ hours from here, right?
Explain to them what's going on in
what's
Yuba.
going on in Yuba County.
Yeah.
Just like you see the expansion of area in which people commute to, this is the next big one.
Okay.
It's actually listed right now, I think it's number 12 in the nation as the hottest real estate.
Really? Wow.
And it's Bill Air Force Base is there. It's 35 miles out of Sacramento.
Okay.
It's in the commute window to Sacramento.
Okay.
It's only 6 miles from Bill Air Force Base.
Okay.
And
which is where they do the drone stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's not going away.
No.
Not after the Soleimani thing.
It's accelerating, actually.
No. This Soleimani thing convinced people drones are the future. Right?
I think we thought that years ago.
But
it's
now,
amazing what they could do
proven.
now.
Well, now it's proven. When you can do a strike from 30,000 feet up in the air on target, unmanned, and have the drone come back, all fine. No risk.
With all the data.
All the pictures, everything else, man. And then make a president who's otherwise under attack look good. I mean, come on. I mean, you can't. I can see why the military budget's so big if they're putting it in that sort of stuff.
And on top of all that, they fly it from Bill Air Force Base.
Oh, they do? Yeah. Does the Soleimani thing happen from there? The Iranian thing that just happened?
There are 2 different Air Force bases in the United States that are command centers for the actual projects to go out. Okay. And Bill's the leading one, and Bill also is the one that does the training of the pilots.
Oh, okay, it's even more important.
And then, interesting enough, they are still flying U-2s.
Really?
So the U-2s are flown out of the Bill Air Force Base.
Wow. So that's not going away.
No.
And they need housing? Is that part of the deal? The government effectively needs housing because it doesn't have enough barracks?
Well, they just added 3,000 new employees in the last 2 years.
Wow.
Military employees. And then they're projecting for the next 2 years to add another 3,000.
Okay.
And I believe there was about 3,000 already there. So we're talking about 9,000 military people there.
Okay.
And they only have about 504 actual houses on the base for.
So they need housing.
So
they need housing.
Desperately needing housing.
So are people commuting? Is that what's happening mostly now?
So right now they're having to commute to Rockville and Roseville, which is a little further north.
Okay.
And it's about 45 miles, and it's about an hour commute.
Yeah, it's killer.
And they're getting complaints.
I bet.
I mean, there's a little bit of parallelism at Beryl Air Force Base to Silicon Valley in the fact that you have to attract employees, and they have to be happy.
Yes.
They have the same problem with these pilots and stuff. They want to work where it's nice to work. And have reasonable cost.
Right.
And reasonable commute. So
this is a tremendous growth opportunity in this area in Yuba. But not only the military, but it sounds like, according to what you're saying, even the communities around the citizen, I mean, that's going to continue to grow.
Yeah, in fact, there's a lot of really neat things happening out there right now. They just got the Fire Mountain Casino, which is
that's right. You mentioned that too. Just opened last year.
It just opened in October last year, and they've got about 800 acres that they're planning to build their kind of new version.
Probably golf courses and all that, right?
Yeah. And they have sports centers, and they have amphitheaters for concerts.
Boy.
Well, you use the F word, the 4-letter F word, fire. I know other people are thinking something different. But is there fire risk in that area, or is it out of the fire risk zone? Because that's the first thing I think people worry about when they go out of the local area, because they think, anything that's in the fire country.
If I remember
is there risk there?
It's not in an area. It's a lot of farming around Yuba. It's basically growing rice, which is underwater, so that's a good thing.
All right.
And mostly then it's orchards and stuff. So the net result is not a high fire risk area.
Okay, well that's good. So you think it's really relatively low risk because it sounds like you've got more than enough demand in terms of not enough the government pays enough to pay rent to these pilots.
Plus, I
assume it does, right?
The advantage you have with this project is, and I want to speak to this, is that you're in early. I mean, you've got it locked down, you're building, you've gone on it through the process. If someone were to say, gee, I want to do something like this or build there, regardless of the city or the area wanting to aggressively build more housing, you've already got a head start on this.
Well, we don't only have a head start, we're the only game in town right now. Because
so that's a big deal.
You need to have the zoning in the area to build in, and we're the only property zoned for this type of a building that close to the Air Force Base. We also share a property line with Yuba City College.
Oh, that's good.
So we see right now that the majority of our renters are going to come from Bill Air Force Base and from these employees that have come in for the casino, and also professors or students going to the Yuba City College. Yuba City is kind of unique because most community colleges wouldn't have the need for this. But they shut down their internal housing to make room for daycare. And then they have nursing programs for credentialed nursing.
Okay, that's a big
all over the state.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And they're on a lotto system to even get in to do it.
Wow.
So there are people who need to come for that training. Also, they have some cooperation with the Air Force Base, and they also do the industrial robotics programs. And so people come from all over the place.
So if you go back to like high school, if I went back to high school, my mom would say, "Oh, you were going to become a priest." And when I gave that lecture at the church the other day, my wife was like, "Maybe you would have been a good priest." She was laughing. But when you go back to your high school, do you see the trajectory that you took? Because I think you've taken a unique trajectory from a career in Silicon Valley. You're still living sort of in Silicon Valley, but you're really now extending your reach in ways that are a new challenge. Would you say, yeah, in high school I always thought this is the way it would land? I'm kind of curious how you think of it. Were you always going to be an engineer, always be a project manager? Would you always see that in your future? Because I didn't see law. I didn't really see law until college, maybe even graduate school, maybe at the tail end of graduate school. You guys didn't
have one thing? The only thing I saw was baseball. Anything after that, I have no idea.
You're like my uncle. He wanted to play for the Yankees, man. If he couldn't play for the Yankees, he wasn't going to do it.
Okay, that's a long question.
Yeah, I know. It's a long question.
Let's see if I can break it down a little bit.
Yeah.
First of all, I went to a very unusual high school.
Okay.
I went to Don Bosco Tech, which was a Salesian school.
Okay.
And it was a trade school.
Okay.
And we had different shops you could choose from.
Okay.
Now, my dad was one of the television pioneers.
Oh, I didn't know that.
He built the first color television.
Oh, I didn't know that.
For Hoffman Electronics.
So this is like 1950s, right?
50s and 60s.
Yeah, okay.
And so the interesting thing about when my dad worked at Hoffman, they were the ones that did the solar panels for the space program, for all the satellites and stuff. Nice. So they were a semiconductor company.
Ah, so your dad was early.
So I got exposure. Well, the stuff he was doing was with tubes.
Yes, okay. Yeah.
But anyway, so that drove my interest in electronics.
Yes.
The high school I went to had a very good high school.
Yes.
Had a good electronics program.
Well, it's a religious school, isn't it?
Right.
It's a set of brothers, right? It's a set of
They want me to be a brother.
Yeah. No. If you go to a Catholic, either Jesuit or Franciscan, or which is your Salesian? Salesian. You go. They kind of try to pick the best and the brightest and sort of push them towards become a priest, become a brother, be a teacher.
So a bit of some recruitment if they like you.
There's recruitment if they like you. They're sort of ferreting out what they think, oh, this guy's going to go into business. I remember one of them said, oh, this guy wants to be a movie star, forget it. We don't want any of that. That kind of thing. So you saw early that you were going to do more of a technical kind of career.
Yeah, I wanted to be in electronics.
Okay. But you knew early. You knew that early.
Yes.
Okay, and then where did you go to college? Where did you go after high school?
I went to Cal Poly Pomona.
Oh, so there it is. So that's right.
The reason I went there was because they had a lab, and I wanted the hands-on experience.
Yes.
In the high school I went to, we had 4 hours of lab every day.
Wow.
On your choice of your trade.
Okay.
And so as a result, I came out of Cal Poly with a they called it a BSEEE.
Right.
So they had two different programs, one kind of like for power plants and one for electronics.
Okay.
And I actually talked the professors there into teaching a class in semiconductor.
Oh, you did?
Oh. Yeah.
You actually taught early.
Yes. And at that time, I was working for General Dynamics, which was like 5 minutes away.
Okay.
And the professors all had real career jobs.
Okay.
So the professor there was doing the infrared sensors for missiles.
Oh, okay.
And he knew all about semiconductors, so he did the class.
A lot of what people don't realize is Silicon Valley really had as its roots big governmental support.
Right.
Companies like Varian, these companies were defense contractors.
What was the big company that was right across from the airport for years, San Jose Airport? I think a huge military.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, I want to say Lockheed, but Lockheed was in Burbank. There were a few. And so, people don't realize that Silicon Valley really got the huge start it got by government money post-World War II, saying there's going to be a different future. It's going to involve electronics. It's going to involve space. It's going to involve aircraft and Moffett Field and lots of other things. And now I think your point is Yuba is like the cutting edge. This place near your project, and your project sounds like a big project, but not big enough.
Yeah, let's zone in on the project and get granular and kind of take us through that, because I want to make sure we have enough time here. We only have about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
To really drill down, explain what it's about, and then we'll also talk about, we'll bring it up later, that you're looking for some investors to kind of finish up the project as well. So I'll go ahead and let you take it from here.
Yes.
Okay, so let me just describe the project.
All right.
So the project is basically a 480-unit apartment complex. And it's a luxury apartment complex, and it was actually designed intentionally by Dr. Starkweather, my partner, to serve the needs of the military. His equation for success is you place these near a college or an Air Force base, and we got lucky and got both.
Wow, that's good.
And so the amenities of the apartment are on the luxury scale, and it's intended to be kind of what people are looking for. We have a community area with a swimming pool, and the desire is to actually create a social situation for these people that they can have some camaraderie and a social structure to meet each other.
Right.
So as a result, we've kind of planned that all in. And in our community center, not only are we going to have the swimming pool and a large entertaining area, but also we're going to have a gymnasium that's 24 hours a day for access. And there will also be setups for children to have play areas and sports areas. It's actually called Tanglewood Racket Village. Because tennis used to be the big thing, but now the big thing is actually basketball.
Oh, basketball. So there are going to be multiple. Oh, I didn't know that.
And this is kind of unique the way we're doing this, because it's basically 20 buildings of 24 units each that make up the 480 units. And so as a result of that, from a developer's point of view and from a builder's point of view, it makes it very modular. And so you can build one building at a time. As soon as you get that building finished, you can rent it out and start cash flow early.
Okay, but you're not using modular construction. We had a gentleman on, Brad, from
Starbrook, maybe?
I'll find the name.
I think it's Starbrook, maybe. I'm not sure.
He's doing modular construction in Reno on a mass manufactured basis. You're not doing that. You're doing stick construction, right?
No, we do a different way of modular. We're not trying to build like an apartment and stack it like Legos together.
Right.
That has other logistic problems that are difficult.
Brad Oldenbrook, and it's Starbrook.
Starbrook.
It kind of puts part of his name in. He's the CEO. We had a show that he did, and he told us the future is mass manufactured modular homes trucked in from Reno. And it sounds like you looked at that and said, no, we're going to do something that's more of a hybrid than that, or something quite different?
Yeah, I'd call it a hybrid because, like I said, there's logistic issues when you start building things where you're dropping whole units in place.
Yes.
So what our builder is, we have a local builder right there in Yuba.
Yes.
It's Hilbert's Construction.
Okay.
And what they do is that we have what we call an optimization phase, which we have to start with. It's the architecture to the detail of building.
Yes.
And in that CAD setup we have, that'll actually drive out the plans to build each wall with all the things it needs.
Oh, like pre-built walls with the electrical all plugged in, everything else. Oh, plumbing too? Okay.
So it does a couple great things. One is it makes it a simple assembly project for the construction phase.
Yes.
Also, there's other things you have to worry about when you're building things of this scale. Is how are you going to protect your construction material?
Yeah, it gets stolen. Sure.
So the advantage is when you're bringing it in as a prefab wall.
Yes.
Nobody wants to steal that because
it doesn't fit anywhere else.
You trace that right back to where it came from.
Yes.
And so there's no market for it. In addition to that.
Does the wall, I'm kind of curious, does the wall actually snap in like some sort of Lego piece, or you don't do sticks then? It's not like the sticks are going up, right?
What's different about today is everything's very precisely done.
Okay.
So the walls, I mean, they do it in some ways today just by the joists they put in the ceilings and so on.
Okay.
That all goes together.
Okay.
It just fits. So it's still probably put together with the standard, nailing and so on.
Yes.
But the way it fits together and all that goes very fast.
Okay. So you figured out that, because I think what Brad's argument was, I'd have to go back and listen to the audio, and I will, was he thought he could get the price down to under $100 a square foot on a modular basis. So 1,000 foot unit would be 100,000.
But he's referring to also single family.
Single family.
He's got a different animal.
But he talks about apartments. He might move in the direction of starting single family. Right. You're building an apartment, really, I guess 20. You say 20 units or 24 each?
24 per building.
Yeah. 20 units. 20 buildings, like building A through building whatever.
So we get economy of scales another way.
Yeah.
So, for example, we have to pour a slab foundation.
Right.
Now, you can do that traditional way where you put your wood border around it and pour it and all that stuff.
Yes.
But instead, we're looking at making a steel mold for
it.
So you just move that, do the next
one. Oh, that's smart.
Other ways you can get leverage.
Because a lot of this is about controlling cost, right?
Yeah, let's talk about the cost a little bit.
Yeah.
So there's hard costs and soft costs. I'm going to talk only about the hard costs for a moment.
Okay.
So our goal is to be in the 125 to 145 range for the total all in.
Okay.
Now, when your other person
per square foot.
So when he was saying he was going to try to hit that goal,
yes.
I assume that's going to be just a hard cost.
Yes. That's the manufacturing inside the factory.
So
not the land.
Working with Hilbert, they've just finished a project about a year ago called Rubicon in Lodi, and very similar style of construction.
Okay.
And they told us what they were concerned about that causes cost increases. For example, if you have your apartments built, but each level does not line up with the next level for things like the air vents and things like that.
That costs money.
It costs money to make them jog around.
Yes.
Dr. Starkweather, when he did the design of this project, he made sure everything lined up. The bearing walls line up, all the stacks line up, everything lines up. That greatly reduces the extra cost.
Okay. So let's make
so we're already hitting that point. Yeah. We're about that point that he's claiming to get by doing more modular things. But
let's just make sure let's get as focused as we can on the project, and then because I know you're looking to raise some money too. We're running out of time. We only have about another 6 or 7 minutes.
Okay, so let me give you the kind of the highlights of what's really different about this project. Given the fact that it was designed for the military in mind, it has one building that kind of looks like an apartment building, but it's actually a public storage.
Oh,
because there's a need for these people to have a place to store things that to go on short assignments, or if or you just don't want to have it in your
So that's building number 21. 21. Okay.
21. Good.
Okay.
So that's one unique thing for this thing. We also have all the amenities I talked about. So we have, these are 9-foot ceilings. They have upgraded appliances.
So what's the rent like? Because you're relying on rents to drive revenue, and then revenue to drive profit, and then profit to get paid back to the investor. Because for an investor putting in $100,000, it sounded almost too good to be true when you told me the rent was going to produce for every $100,000 like $20,000 worth of return net is what's expected. Because to me that sounds like a great outcome, and I know you have all the spreadsheets because I know I've seen them all, and of course I've been through deals where people say, hey, this is conservative, and then, environmental issues, lawsuits, I can't tell you things that happen, but it sounds like Yuba is very welcoming, so maybe that won't happen to you.
Well, Jack, I have an engineering background.
No, I know you're here.
I have all my spreadsheets.
You just put your high-intensity glasses on, so you're going to tell us exactly the numbers, right?
So, we're all used to rents in this in the Bay Area, and they're crazy.
Yes, nutty, right?
You're probably paying, $4,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment.
Yes.
Right.
But, $5,000 maybe.
But in Yuba City, a 2-bedroom apartment at the end of the construction, in the end of the construction,
luxury apartment,
3.5 years.
Yes.
We're talking about a 2-bedroom, 2-bath for about $23,000
That's cheap.
A month.
Yeah, that's cheap.
And
you're not going to find anything like that in Silicon Valley.
How many square foot would that be?
It's about 1,200.
Yeah, that's a nice size. Yeah. Real nice size.
Even our suite, studio suite, is about $650.
It's hard to believe that the rents won't be higher because of the drivers of other rents getting higher everywhere else.
Yeah.
Right?
So those are estimated rents 3 years from now?
Yes, 3 years from now.
Okay. Those are conservative numbers.
Yeah,
probably.
that's what it sounds like, right?
So we're starting out at a much lower point.
That makes sense.
Yes.
That's assuming about 3% rise
a
year to get to that point. But very achievable.
Yes.
Now, we've already reviewed all this with the Air Force Base.
Okay.
And they agree those rents are good rent.
Oh, they didn't say you got to go lower, give us a deal,
actually,
we'll do this?
They're actually encouraging us to go higher.
Wow.
They have things they'd like to see. So we're doing like an embassy suite style where they'll be fully furnished for people who have to come on a monthly basis.
I think that's the future.
Extended stay type thing.
I tell you, I think that's the future.
Yeah.
People are like, I don't want to be bothered dealing with furniture. Like, I visited a project in New York, and the guy who's doing it said to me, we install all the flat panel TVs in every room. I said, every room? Yeah, even the bathroom. I said, why? I said, people want it. They want to go into the bathroom and watch CNN or Fox News. It's shocking to me, right?
Yeah. So with the couple minutes we have left, this is an exciting project. The completion's about 3 years, you say, from now. But when can you actually start seeing maybe units? How does it work? Do you have like phase 1, phase 2, phase 3? How does that work?
So the first phase, there's a kind of like a 6 months lead time to get all the infrastructure in the ground.
Right.
And once you get the infrastructure in, you can start producing the next building in about a 45-day cycle.
Okay.
That's fast.
So that's why it takes about 3.5 years. But in this environment right now, we may actually see revenue this year.
Wow. That's fast.
Because we're planning to try to start this on the earliest you can do green, which is about April.
So you got to get a certificate of occupancy for building A, right? That's what happens.
That's actually another great thing about the project is Yuba County has given us the latitude to where we pay those fees for that building when it's approved for occupancy.
Oh, that's beautiful.
So we're paying fees and we're getting revenue.
Oh, here in Silicon Valley, every city will be, you pay up front. You pay now.
So you've raised the majority of the money. Things are in place. You're underway. You've really met and surpassed the obstacles that most people have to go through.
Right.
My guess at this juncture, Mike, I mean, there's always hidden things, as Jack was mentioning, that come up. You go, oh, my God, I didn't realize about that. But at this point, I'm guessing a lot of the surprises should be uncovered already, right, at this point?
Yes, there's been a lot of work to ensure and vet out what we're doing. It's been vetted many different ways. We vetted it, the builders vetted it, and even the financial.
Because you raised like $10 million, didn't you already? $10 million's already in the pool?
We have $10 million value just for the project as it stands today.
Yeah, but you've raised actual cash into the LLC that's doing the actual ownership, right? You've raised like $10 million, haven't you?
No, we have $10 million of value.
Oh, value. Okay.
Established for the project at this point in time. The actual cash value is lower than that.
Okay.
It's in the order of about $1.5 million.
Okay. So you've got commitments, though, from banks and the rest to, like, get the construction to happen.
So let me give a few numbers out.
Yes.
It's about a $34 million project.
Okay.
First phase.
Yes.
The whole project's going to be about $110 million.
Okay, big project. Okay.
When it's completed, this is considered an institutional grade invested.
Yes.
So a big REIT might come in and offer us money for it. If that should happen, you're seeing return on investment around 7 times.
7X.
7 times.
Yeah.
7X in like 5 or 10 years. Like on that order. That's pretty good still. There's cash flow, and then there's cash flow that comes out of the actual rents, right? That actually comes from net profits that are being produced over time.
There's actually multiple cost centers. I mean, revenue centers.
Revenue centers.
So you have commitments on the project, the loans, all that's readily underway. So you're looking to raise about $1.5 million at this point now?
So yes, we have full coverage for the loan except for about $1.5 million that we need to raise in new equity. We'll raise more if we get the opportunity to. I mean, as you said, you want to make sure you have some contingency money.
Yes.
This basically is, but there's already contingencies built into that $34 million.
Yeah.
There's about $3 million of contingency fees already accounted for inside there.
Yeah. So I would say that for those that are listening to the podcast, we have thousands of listeners a month. We have people that have followed the show for almost 9 years, Mike. I was explaining before we came on that one of the most interested, I think parties in general of calls, emails, things I've got, calls on the live radio, but emails and texts since doing the podcast is people that are interested in investing in property. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't have the wherewithal to go out and buy their own property, manage it, or go another state. So this is an opportunity for a potential person that really wants to invest in real estate to get involved on something like this, and it's a great opportunity. Yes, and let me just recap with the fact that with all the details spreadsheets that we're doing, we're accounting for all the costs. We're looking at starting out about 14% return on investment. Wow,
that's pretty good.
It's showing right now 24% in the 5th year of operation. That's outstanding. Which is incredible. Mm-hmm. But it's even better than that because I've not gone back and refolded in the revenue that we got suggested by Bill Air Force Base. Okay. Everything Bill Air Force Base is saying that they're going to have 75% occupancy of this project. Boy, there you go, right there. So you don't very often get a project of this scale where you know you're going to have the assumption rate covered. Yeah. Right. And the fact that you've got a large amount of your renters already dedicated to the project. Right, you got no marketing costs if you get that kind of tenant. Right. I mean, it's like a government tenant almost. Yeah. Basically, it's been de-risked. I mean, between Bill, the Bill Air Force, the college, and then the casino, and then the general population growth that's going to take place over there. And you used the fire word earlier. That is the area where Paradise and those are located. Right. So there's this huge stress on any kind of housing right now. Yeah. And so, as I've been told, I could build 3 of these, and we probably won't put a dent in the... Is there farmland that can be converted? Because what you're really signaling is if this is a big success, you're off to the races with 3 or 4 more of these. Correct, of course, if you live to 100, you might do 10 or 15 of them. But they won't be next door to the Air Force. Right. So tell us, before we wrap things up, tell the listeners, if they're interested, how they could reach you. I think you have a phone number and an email. And, of course, those that want to reach out to me, too, then I could pass on your information to Mike. But if someone's listening, later on they contact, what's the best place to reach you, Mike, if they're interested in reviewing the project and potentially investing? I can be reached at my phone number, which is 408-499-2197. And Mike does pick up the phone. Doesn't just go to voicemail. All right. He's old school like me. That's correct. And then if you want to send me an email, it's Michael at... And it's Tanglewood Racket Village. So it's Tanglewood Racket Village. Well, let's make that really long. You have a shorter one, though, that I use. What is it? MG? Can't you get Jack to get you to get, was it TRG or whatever? Yeah, can I get you $1 million domain name to also put in the investment pool? But you have something shorter, like MVIG or something like that? Well, the shorter one I can use is I'm actually one of the very first guys with AOL. Oh, my gosh, that's funny. There you go. It's just my first initial and last name, which is spelled Kliment. Yeah, you're Kliment at AOL.com. That's the one that I always use, but there is even a shorter one for some other domain that you have. I often use. So that's another project we're doing, which is a cemetery. Well, we got to have you. We got to have you come on about that eco cemetery. We'll have you back at another time for a cemetery for sure. That's interesting. Maybe we take a trip out to Yuba, Joe, and make our way to Reno. Really like to take a look at that. Right, take a look at when they do that, and then go to Reno, and then compare the way the construction is being done. Because we had Brad on, and he convinced us modular is the future. You're not convincing us that no, it's hybrid modular with some real labor at the site that's actually putting nails into walls. I don't want to get into the weeds here, but I think the problem was with modular. Even though I love it, it seems really great, and I think for the future. But there's a lot of obstacles there still. Yes. Other than traditional hybrid building, there's a lot of obstacles with modular. It sounds cool. It sounds neat. Well, what I told you, and you know it, but I'll say it on the air, I worked my way through college and graduate school as a Class 1 tractor-trailer driver in New York City. And I can tell you all the stuff that happens when you're moving cargo. So imagine moving a house, 300 miles from Reno to Yuba or whatever that mileage is. Gosh. I mean, a lot is going to happen along the way, and it's probably more risky than people realize. Well, one more time before we go, Mike, give out your email and phone number for those that might be interested. Okay, so it's mclement, so it's MKLIMENT at AOL.com, and my phone number is 408-499-2197. And I'm Jack Russo at Computer Law Group, so if you
need to reach me, it's www.computerlaw.com or jrusso, JRUSSO at computerlaw.com, or we answer the phone to 650-327-9800, and I'm more than happy to vouch for Mike because I've known him forever.
It's a great project.
He's a great guy. I think at some point I'll find some cash to give to you. The question is where it is, because
I'll help you look.
Hey, see if you could. Can't you do a 1031 and take those funds from an LLC? Can't you do that?
We talked about that. We talked. I had my chance.
It's called the.
There's a way to do it.
It's like an IRA or something, right?
It's called a Delaware statutory trust.
Yes.
The way people do it is they put it into the statutory trust, and then the trust ends up owning the interest, but there's all kinds of legal hurdles you have to jump. The lawyers always get their cut. You got to deal with that.
All right. Well, thanks, Mike. Great show.
Well, congratulations on your transformation, man. You've made quite a transformation. Thanks, Joe, for having us.
Yeah, it's Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks again for tuning in. For more information, you can always go to RERadiolive.com. Thank you. Take care. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Subscribe to our podcast. Discover more at RERadiolive.com.